Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
Flood claims denied. The Great Lakes Water Authority says it wasn't at fault for the thousands of basements that flooded last June. Off the top tonight on Local 4 News at 5, citing an independent investigation and Michigan law, the Great Lakes Water Authority denied all claims related to the historic flooding in Metro Detroit last June.
That law says unless a defect in the system was found 50% or more at fault, GWLA isn't liable for damages. Jason Colthorpe working this story for us tonight. Jason, I have to imagine those who lost so much see things differently here.
Oh, no question about it. And they certainly dispute that 50% figure, Kim, because we all know that several of the pumps were not working when this happened. Now, basically what GLWA is saying here is even if all their pumps were working, this rain event was so historic, so powerful, so strong, it would have had no effect.
That was a fully operational kitchen. That was a storage room with a freezer. It was a stove, refrigerator.
It breaks Danita Pittman's heart to look around what's left of her basement.
This was the playroom with furniture. That was my grandson's room. That was the laundry room.
Last summer's historic flooding destroyed the best part of her East Side home on Carpenter.
2 washers, 2 dryers. I'll never catch up.
Definitely not, with just the $4,000 she got from FEMA, and now nothing, it appears, from the Great Lakes Water Authority.
I think it's irresponsible. I think it's despicable that they would do something like this with all of the money they got. I think we should audit Great Lakes and the water department.
Lost 2 cars, I lost everything in the basement.
Paul Doherty and his neighbors in Grosse Pointe Park were also underwater. He was not surprised to hear GLWA denied all 24,000 claims of responsibility.
I would be surprised if they paid a claim. They are circling the wagons. They're facing, by one estimate, $100 million, by another estimate, $190 million worth of damage claims.
Doherty is in the unique position of also being part of the legal team putting together a class action lawsuit against GLWA.
When you got 16 storm pumps and 3 work at the beginning, 5 eventually come online, maybe you got 8 running by the early morning hours of the 26th, that's got to have an effect on how much water they can move. I guess Great Lakes is saying go sue Mother Nature. I think that's their theory. No, you shoulder, if not all of the blame, substantial blame for the amount of damage that was done.
Yeah, we're talking about people who lost tens of thousands of dollars in property and other things in all of this. That lawsuit, by the way, includes 600 plaintiffs at this point and also names Detroit Water and Sewerage. I should point out I reached out to Great Lakes Water Authority today. It didn't want to go on camera, instead staying with what it put out in its press release today. Kim?
Jason, the lawsuit that you're talking about with the 600 plaintiffs, can people still join that lawsuit?
Unfortunately, it's unlikely because to do that, they had to fill out a claim form at up to 45 days after this happened. So they can try, but if they haven't filled that claim out, it'll likely get challenged, and it's probably unlikely for it to happen at this point. Back to you.
Okay, Jason, thanks. Also here at 5, 2 members of Michigan's congressional delegation arrested this afternoon at an abortion protest outside the U.S. Supreme Court.
Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Andy Levin, along with 15 other members of Congress, were taken into custody after they were repeatedly warned by Capitol Police. Mara McDonald live downtown now with more. Mara?
Hi, Devin. You know, that protest outside the Supreme Court mimicked abortion protests we've seen all over the country, including here at the federal courthouse. But here's the big difference. For example, at the protest that we saw here, police blocked off the streets. Most of the protesters kept on the sidewalks. In D.C., they were told repeatedly to get out of the middle of the road because traffic couldn't get through. And well, they didn't, so citations were issued. Let me show you. Our choice! The protesters outside the Supreme Court marching and blocking First Street, the Capitol Police using their standard protocol, which is to give 3 warnings to move and then issue citations. 35 protesters, including 17 members of Congress, did not move over to the sidewalk and instead kept blocking traffic. From the Michigan delegation, both Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib and Congressman Andy Levin were arrested. Both members face contested Democratic races in the August primary, which is just 2 weeks away. But absentee voters have had their ballots for a few weeks now. Back here live, the whole citation issuing process seemed to go pretty smoothly and pretty low key. The whole thing was over in about 16 minutes. We're live downtown tonight. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Okay, Mara. Attorneys for James and Jennifer Crumbly have filed an appeal saying the case against them should be thrown out.
They say the judge in the case went too far by ordering them to go to trial. Sean Lay is live tonight. Sean, they say they just aren't responsible.
And Kimberly, the couple now saying the judge on their case making two big mistakes in their opinion. One, allowing their son's text messages into their trial, and two, that you alluded to, moving their case on to trial in the first place. They're going to the Court of Appeals. Here's Local 4's legal analyst Neil Rockheim to break it all down for us.
The defense is arguing that no matter what the parents did, no matter how good of parents they were, no matter no matter what they attempted to do, whether good or bad, that Ethan Crumbly acted on his own.
Local 4 legal analyst Neil Rockheim breaking down the big appeals from the parents of the accused Oxford school shooter. James and Jennifer Crumbly now arguing that a judge abused her discretion by binding their involuntary manslaughter case over for trial. They want an appellate court to completely throw their case out, making this argument.
That no matter what the parents did, that ultimately, the person that you look back at and say is responsible for the deaths is Ethan Crumbly.
The couple also wants their son's text messages excluded from their case, but prosecutors argue the text messages show the parents likely knew their son was in a mental health crisis but did nothing. Prosecutors filing some of the text messages from the Crumbly son to a friend that read, quote, "I actually asked my dad to take to the doctor yesterday, but he just gave me some pills and told me to suck it up. And mom laughed when I told her." Back here live, there's a gag order issued in this case, so no sides here talking at all. With the trial date for the Crumblys coming right up, Neil Rockheim says wouldn't be surprised if the Court of Appeals did not decide on today's motions from the Crumbly parents, instead letting this go to trial and then take appeals after the trial. We'll certainly keep it updated for you. Back to you.
Sean, also there's some developments coming this week in the case against the accused shooter.
Correct. Their son, again, another court appearance this week. It happens once a month, and we cover it each and every time. It's to decide whether or not he'll remain in the Oakland County Jail adult court or be moved to Children's Village juvenile court. That happens Friday. We'll let you know what's decided in court then.
Okay. Sean, thanks.
Let's get to the weather, which is the story right now in many parts of the world. The heat is on all across Metro Detroit. Temperatures into the 90s as you take a live look from our Ann Arbor sky cam.
Yeah, let's get over to Andrew. There's always a worry about storms when it gets this hot. So how do things look right now?
Well, Kimberly and Devin, so far we are storm free. Different story for tomorrow, but let's talk about the heat because that is a main concern, as you both mentioned. 87 right now in Ann Arbor, so below 90, but it's above 90 elsewhere, including Pontiac at 92, 94 simply searing over in Lapeer, and 94 in Mount Clemens. Outside, we're looking at partly sunny skies, 91 degrees over at Metro Airport, but it feels like it's around 95. So even as the sun sets, make sure you stay hydrated. If you're going to be outdoors, limit any strenuous activity. Winds at around 15 miles per hour. Still keep kids and pets away from empty vehicles because those interior temperatures of your cars and SUVs and trucks can still skyrocket. Speaking of which, look at the heat index. It feels like it's near 100 at this hour over in Mount Clemens. 97 is what it feels like over in Sandusky if you're not too careful. So it remains hot and muggy as we go over the next couple of hours, with temperatures still around 90 degrees an hour from now. Then we're looking at middle and upper 80s throughout much of the night. Even by midnight, we'll still be around 80, and it will feel like it's in the 80s overnight. So make sure those air conditioners are working and your home is well ventilated before going to bed. More heat for tomorrow, but thunderstorms on top of that. More on that part of your forecast coming up.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. A transformer at the Hoover Dam caught fire today. Video shows an explosion and a big plume of black smoke in a building near the base of the dam in Boulder City, Nevada. No one was hurt, and the fire was put out in about 30 minutes. The Bureau of Reclamations says there is no risk to the power grid. The massive dam generates enough hydroelectric power to serve more than 1 million people. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
Today marked day 2 in the contempt of Congress trial for Trump advisor Steve Bannon. Bannon is widely expected to be convicted for refusing a subpoena to testify before the January 6th committee. Meanwhile, the committee's Thursday hearing is on as planned, despite Chairman Benny Thompson testifying testing positive for COVID. The panel will not receive an expected trove of text messages from the Secret Service from January 5th and 6th. The Washington Post reports the agency determined it has no new texts to provide Congress, and texts exchanged around the time of the insurrection were purged.
Were they deliberately and nefariously deleted, or were they just lost in some transition?
Good question. The National Archives today asking the agency to investigate the potentially unauthorized deletion of those January 6th texts.
Coronavirus numbers for the week are out, and they are holding pretty steady compared with last week. 16,445 new cases over the past 7 days. That averages out to 2,300 per day. The state is also reporting 149 coronavirus deaths over that same time period.
First Lady Jill Biden is coming to Detroit on Thursday. First Lady and Education Secretary Miguel Cardona are going to visit the Detroit Public Schools Summer Learning Program at Schulz Academy. The two will be looking into programs that help children who fell behind during the pandemic. Some of those programs are being funded by President Biden's American Rescue Plan. First Lady will arrive at Metro Airport tomorrow.
The Mega Millions jackpot is growing ahead of tonight's big drawing. It is now at $555 million, putting it in the top 5 biggest jackpots of all time. If you take the cash option, you'll walk away with $316 million. Your odds, though, aren't that great, 1 in 300 million. The drawing is tonight at 11, and you can watch it live right here on